Tony Blair did absolutely the right thing. When it comes to issues in the Middle East, I think people need to try to live together in peace. I agree with the sentiments of your point. I don't want to be dividing communities. Communities need to work together, live together, and get along with each other. When it comes to your reference to social pimping and the effect on local services, look, I'll be honest with you, and this comes to your third question as well. I believe the deficit has to be cut. I believe there is a responsibility to the next generation, my generation. I'm only 29 years old. I don't want to be paying off the deficit when I'm reaching the age of some of the people in the audience. So
Are you sure?
Tell that to my wife, she won't be happy. But look, in all seriousness, I think the deficit has got to be cut, but it has got to be done in a sensible way that protects key services. I agree with that point.
Tax the rich! Get the money off the bankers!
Thank you. In Greece, you mentioned Syriza in Greece. In Greece, Syriza, the Green Party, is part of the Syriza coalition and has worked with them for many years to build their platform, which actually is a very modest and moderate platform. It's basically Keynesian economics. It's not the radical force that's being portrayed here by our media that brooks anything that's not following this whole mantra of cuts and austerity and paying back debts that we didn't cause, that the banks caused, is something that we have to do. There is definitely another way. When it comes to foreign policy, we should stop pretending that we have the answers. Why don't we collaborate? There are all sorts of bodies that we could play a fuller role in, such as the United Nations, peacekeeping forces. Really get involved and support those. And when it comes to austerity, yes, austerity is unnecessary. There is no economic basis for austerity. It is a political programme to take away benefits from the likes of us by people that didn't ever want to give them to us in the first place. So I think I can probably say no, 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 and I'd say yes, yes, yes for an alternative.
Yeah.
Okay, on the war, I think what the real tragedy is that before the intervention of Britain and the European powers, Christian, Jew, Muslim, Shia, Sunni, all types of Muslim lived in peace in the Middle East, and unfortunately I think the wars that we've engaged in have deliberately fomented divide and rule, and likewise we're seeing the same divide and rule being used at home with Islamophobia and and migrant blaming, and I think they're two sides of the same coin, and we have to say no to all those manifestations of racism. By social pimping, I'm assuming you mean the outsourcing of public services. I'm not quite sure what you mean by that, but if that is what you mean, then absolutely we've got to oppose that completely. And I think that we need public services staffed by public people being paid proper wages, and outsourcing is just a race to the bottom in terms of undercutting wages and conditions. The last question I think is interesting about Syriza and about the challenge to austerity. I think what's happening right across Europe is that people are rejecting austerity. Syriza in Greece, Podemos in Spain, movements across the continent are seeing the rich richer and the poor poorer, and are recognising that there has to be an alternative. But we have to recognise that Syriza didn't come out of nowhere. 4 years ago they secured 4% of the vote. This year they won an election. Why? Because they've gone through 24 general strikes, because they've been building from the grassroots. They've been working there in the communities, challenging austerity, challenging the hegemony of the banks, challenging the International Monetary Fund and the European Central Bank, which is saying there is no alternative to austerity. And that's the first thing that we have to do. This is the basis for building a decent, fair society. We have to challenge the idea that there is no alternative, because the money is there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you.